One tribe, a reminder of a place once lived, where real equality and community existed, free from judgment, free from the system of fear and control, a place where connection can lead to possibilities, and a space where creativity has no restrictions, a path through the unknown, not knowing where one's going to end up, but having the faith of knowing things are going to work out. A realization that the ocean is a thread that connects all the lands and all the tribes of people. A feeling of being connected to something greater than one's own singular life. A greater realization that no man is an island. Instead, a critical piece that makes up this collective consciousness. A part of time where the past, present and future coexist. A place of magic where thoughts become things. A greater understanding that by living in harmony with nature, one gains a healthy mind, body and spirit. A universal space where energy, frequency and vibration merge into one. And a great knowing that together as one, we can make a difference. Welcome to One Tribe.
This is what we're looking for.
And when I came down to South Gippsland in 1978 as a teacher, it's a beautiful, fairly unspoilt part of the world. From Phillip Island to Wilson's Prom, it's pretty hard to beat the variety of coastline we have. It's just a magnificent place to live. I've been environmentally aware, I think, most of my life. I was lucky enough to grow up on the beaches. I've been snorkeling since I was a primary school kid. I know what's in the oceans. I've been in Indonesia and seen where they've dynamite fished. They've just blown the reef up on one occasion and there's no fish there for the next 50 or 100 years. I think I've been very lucky in the places I've lived and living in the places that I've lived down here in South Gippsland, on the peninsula. I've seen the best of what we have. Well, there are a lot of environmental issues and huge problems, and the best way to tackle them are think globally, act locally. It's an old saying from the 1980s, but it's true. If we can do something in our own area and help in our own small way, that's really important. But the oceans cover 3/4 of the earth, so it's a huge area. We're lucky enough to live on the edge of an ocean. And for me, I've always wanted to know what's underneath the ocean. You see the water, but you've got no idea. And that's the trouble with pollution and plastic. So many people, if you're not a diver or a surfer and you don't live on an ocean, you just see a waterway and you've got no idea what's under there. But to actually get in there, see the fantastic variety of fish, the variety of seaweeds, and just the biodiversity in the ocean is awesome. And when you've done a bit of that, you appreciate it. And I think that's why a lot more people need to do it, so they actually understand what we're endangering and what we're doing with the plastic. Well, one of the things I've done as an environmental awareness thing is I've realised that a lot of people have no idea of what's in the ocean. They see lots of things on Facebook about the huge amount of plastic we have in the ocean, and I've posted those too. But one of the things I decided to do was get as much footage of it as I can of all the things in our ocean, between Inverloch and Cape Patterson down to Wilson's Prom. And I've been slowly getting a lot of videos. I'm up to about 100. So for 20 or 30 seconds, it might be a footage of a draft board shark swimming in the ocean. And once I've collected all these videos and I've got up to, I'll probably need another 30 or 40. And when I've finished, I will give them to anyone who wants them. I've already spoken to the Education Department. I've given them to Wonthaggi Secondary College. I've given them to the local Conservation Society. I've given them to a few individuals and teachers. And the idea is they can actually then show the kids what we actually have in our coastline. If the kids don't know what's there, they don't know what to protect. And we need to protect the oceans because they're just so full of biodiversity. And the sooner people know what's there, the better. People don't protect if they don't know it's there. People will want to protect really nice things when they know it's there. Community sport, community activity is a fantastic thing for the whole. It brings people together. It gets them doing something together. It stops people being isolated in their own houses. It can be a hobby, community sport, community work. Working bees are all really important for communities. Being involved with the environment. And I feel sorry for kids growing up in the city. You know, they've got concrete walls around them, concrete floor, they're sitting on electronic stuff. To get out, whether you're on a lake or swimming in a river, or you get into an isolated mountain area, or you go skiing, you go surfing, you go diving. I think all people need to experience some of that to give them balance. Well, I think any sport teaches you resilience because you've got to persevere and stick at something. And boxing's a pretty tough sport to stick with. When you first go along, you're a raw novice. You have to train really hard to get your fitness up before you can even get in the ring. When you start getting in the ring, you're usually getting in the ring with people who are better than you. So resilience, if you keep coming back, you've got a bit of resilience, especially when you're with someone who's a little bit better than you and you cop a few, but you come back and improve, and eventually you finish up, in many cases, being the one who's got more experience. Being a teacher, I taught for 35 years. I've got a passion for sport. Sport kept me from getting into trouble when I was a young kid, kept me away from things like drugs. I never drank too much. And I think if I can do that for kids, my own kids and other people's kids, give them a sport, a love of sport for life, and keep them away from things like drug and drinking too much, it's a pretty good thing. Creativity in your life is a fantastic thing. It gives you options. If you're not creative, you're not thinking about things you possibly can do. When we got this property here, which you've had a bit of a look around, it was pretty much a block of land. There were no dams, there were hardly any trees. So all the gardens we've developed, so creativity from that side of things has just been wonderful. It feeds us, it makes us feel good when we're here. Creativity is really important to people. If you get into creating something or interested in creating something, it gives you a great sense of relief and probably helps any mental issues as well. Well, mental health is a huge issue these days. We have lots of pressures from society. We have probably too much time spent on electronic equipment. I think getting kids out into the natural environment is extremely important. There's a book called Nature Deficit Disorder, and it's about people who don't spend enough time in nature and they're missing out and their development's affected because of it. And certainly whatever sport, surfing, boxing's indoor, but you can get out and run, you can train outside, you can train at the beach. It's just another example of how to keep your mind fit and active. I don't want to see food coming from a long way away. I want to eat food grown locally. I want to grow my own food locally. I don't want to drink Brazilian orange juice. I'd rather drink orange juice from Victoria. And certainly I have issues with pesticides ever since Raquel Carlson brought out the book Silent Spring in the 60s. There's been issues with pesticides, and there are more and more kids having all sorts of problems in our society. And the biggest thing that's changed in the last 40, 50 years is the amount of chemicals in our society. So I strongly believe in things grown naturally. It's funny you say you retired, but I haven't retired from doing all the things I really love. Some people just see themselves as the person who they were at work, whereas I've always seen myself as lots of things. I've thought of myself as a diver, an underwater hockey player, thought of myself as a surfer and someone who's done a lot of boxing, think of myself as a gardener. So I certainly never just thought of myself as a teacher in a school. Underwater hockey is a fantastic sport. Compared to every other sport you play, when you play any sport, you train hard and you train really, really hard, and the harder you train, the more you puff. In underwater hockey, you're playing it on the bottom of the pool holding your breath. So the best players are not only going flat out, but they're trying to do it for as long as they can on the bottom of the pool with one breath. So when you're relaxed, you can learn to hold your breath for a really long time. So over the years I've trained, and I still go to the pool now and swim laps underwater. And when I go diving, it makes diving really easy. I've sat there and held my breath for 3.5 minutes, and then we'll go to the pool and swim maybe 1 kilometre. A length of the pool, 6 breaths, a length of the pool, 6 breaths, and that is not tiring, that's actually relaxing. I find it like meditation. It certainly gives the person satisfaction giving back to the community. If someone at some stage has trained me or put a lot of time into me with a sport, to give it back as you get older. I have the knowledge and I have the skills, and I do enjoy working. I wouldn't have been a teacher probably if I didn't like teaching, but I still enjoy teaching and passing on physical skills, whether it's boxing or underwater hockey, surfing. Yeah, I enjoy doing all those sort of things. Yeah, so I'm getting back from that side of it. But of course, in the giving it, I'm hoping the kid who's learning, their fitness improves, their attitude to diet and health improves, their mental attitude improves, and hopefully they get an idea of being fit for life, and they meet a lot of good friends out of phys ed too and sport. Whatever sport you play, you meet a lot of people who are interesting people to be around. Watching a game, I've always thought with hockey you want a game ground. Tonight there were a few people who were bringing it back and then trying to move it sideways. If you pull it back like that and you just go across on the strike like that, you're just holding your team up and the other team is letting them catch up. So if you win the strike, I want to see you gain ground. You win the strike, flick hard out to one side, your wing should be aware of it, their halfback should be right on their feet. If you pull it back down like that, and you're doing it on the strike, not just to put the other person off and confuse them, don't just bring it across sideways, bring it back and bring it up forwards. So it comes down there, bang, and you're still running forward.
I think it's worth saying that this applies to the juniors as well, that when you're going for the strike, your objective of going to the strike isn't always to beat the other person going to the strike. So that's not a one-on-one situation. You're trying to move the puck forward for your team. So even if that means you're just taking it to one direction, swimming it forwards, and then curling, and then you've gained ground with your team, and you can set up and drive instead of focusing on beating that one person in the very middle of the pool.
So I think for me, staying positive on stage is often relatively simple because I genuinely love to perform, and I really enjoy those precious moments of being able to perform for the audience. It's a bit of a gift, really, and it's definitely something very special. I've certainly had moments where it's been a little bit more challenging to stay positive, and that's often circumstantial, as in lots of different scenarios when it's hard to stay positive. It can be a reflection of a bit of a negative mood in the room, so perhaps the people that you're with as well are struggling to find that positive energy in that space at that time. There can be a lot of different factors at play there, and I think some of the steps to take in terms of reaffirming that positivity or refinding it is about just bringing it back to your purpose. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? And for performers, it's almost always comes down to because we have fun doing what we're doing. There's also a really good camaraderie amongst the cast as well. So being positive, not just for yourself, but for each other.
Would you care for some of my cake, perhaps, Craig? It's poisoned. I'm joking. Or am I? You know, it was Jake, our boss, who made the cake last week, not Ange. She is not a fan of the recipe book. Me, on the other hand.
It's actually really fun playing roles where you get to be a little bit mean or a little bit evil. I don't know why. I think because you get to indulge perhaps in something that you wouldn't normally do in life. Yeah, and because obviously when you're performing or you're acting, you're not being serious. So you're able to be really playful within that sphere of being a bit nasty or a bit evil, but without actually hurting anyone's feelings because you're all there to perform and to act and to recreate a story. And those things do exist in life, right? So you need to be able to portray them convincingly as well so that it's a real portrayal of what exists in the world. I'm really loving being back in my home community of Bass Coast. The lifestyle here is just incomparable. It's priceless. You get to go outside and be amongst some of the most beautiful parts of nature. We've got amazing beaches to just go for a walk along. It's good for the soul, it's good for the mind and the body. And yeah, there's no place I'd rather be. I am inspired by so many people around me. And so when I hear from others that I've inspired them, I almost don't know what to do with that information. And it's not that it's hard to believe, it's just that it's a really humbling experience. But I think that's part of, the collective energy that we can all create, and that by lifting others up, we are making a difference and we're lifting ourselves up too. I guess there's a saying, if you can't see it, then you can't be it. And I've been really fortunate to have lots of amazing role models in my life and women who have shown me that you can be what you want to be, and that's been really vital. So not so much a piece of wisdom, but I guess exposure to diverse people doing amazing things. I read something recently and it was called like the teaspoon impact, and it's basically, you know, if somebody's house is on fire, you've got 3 options. You can run away, you can sort of call up the fire brigade and get them to deal with the house and sit in your house and sort of watch, or you can go and throw a bucket of water on it. And if you don't have a bucket of water, you can throw a cup of water. And if you don't have a cup of water, you can throw a teaspoon of water. And a teaspoon of water might not do much, but if everybody throws a teaspoon of water on the house, then they'll put the fire out. So it's that idea that we all have a teaspoon. We don't have to do much, but if all of us do that one little bit to help out, then we can make a difference. So that collective impact, I believe strongly in, rather than, I guess, a higher purpose. For me personally, I think we all have a higher purpose of that collective responsibility to have an impact on the lives of others and the world that we live in, and importantly, our planet as well.
Actually, technically, 7 years is a generation. I read that somewhere. You know, I actually am on Jake's side, though. I get that you love the song, the memories and all that. But thinking that it somehow sends good karma out to the universe? Oh, hey, I almost forgot. Happy birthday for yesterday!
So the story of Ambushed, it follows a bit of a dysfunctional family narrative. There's 3 main characters, which is the mother and her 2 children, a daughter and a son. And it follows their 3 different journeys through essentially their search for love. And it's interesting in the way that it's told because it explores those characters, and in the end, all of their stories, which are intertwined, sort of collide for the ending, which is amusing and funny, and it's a light-hearted show about family in the end.
Oh my God! That is such a coincidence. I mean, isn't that her favourite song?
It's not a coincidence, Emma. She went there deliberately. She thinks it's a sign from the friggin' universe leading her to her soulmate. She has seriously lost it.
Oh, that is clever.
What's clever?
Her nothing.
I think that there are signs there if we can be open to looking for them. And I also think that the universe can provide, in the sense that there's very much a pattern in our lives, and that pattern is evident in the natural world and nature all around us if we look for it. So it makes sense that it would also be there in our lives as well. And I think those patterns maybe can be what people might refer to as the universe.
Yeah, so I think the universe provides opportunities for things. For us surfers, it provides good waves when the storms come through. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I reckon, yeah, they just pop up randomly. You know, the universe provides, it does.
So for me, mental strength is really about being able to acknowledge and listen to and reconcile the voices in your head and the self-talk that I think a lot of people go through, not only athletes, but people coming up and facing challenges in their life. And that self-talk can sometimes be really negative. So it's about flipping it around, sometimes turning it on its head and making it positive. And that's definitely not an easy thing to do, especially you might be halfway through your marathon, you're at kilometre, let's say 22, and there's an opportunity maybe to give up. It was really about me talking to myself and listening to that voice inside my head that was giving me the opportunity to give up, or telling me that maybe I should stop because I was a bit uncomfortable, and telling it no and saying to myself that you can definitely do this. Just take it 1 kilometre at a time. Just do 1 more K and then see where you're at. So it's about managing those voices and those internalizations, and a lot of it is often about being positive and finding the positive in those really challenging situations to push through. It's kind of like in the movies when there's the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, and it's about managing those relationships between the two to keep yourself in check and to keep yourself balanced